My name is Eric Hicks, and I haul wean pigs and market hogs, and I'm from Mapleton, Iowa. Every week I look the truck over thoroughly, mechanical-wise and cleanliness-wise. I make sure I have all the necessary supplies in my truck. Some of the things we use are rattle paddles for loading hogs, sorting boards, a rattle can, which is usually a 1-gallon gas can with some BBs in it to make some noise to load the hogs. Also, we use special equipment such as disposable coveralls and disposable booties to protect with biosecurity. When I get my load information, I usually look up the site number and the directions to that site. And we use a thing, Google Earth is a big help to us. We can zoom in on the site itself and be able to know if there's any obstacles or certain paths we need to go into the site. Some other things we consider are weather conditions, especially in the wintertime when travel can be pretty hazardous. Some of the precautions we take are checking the radars, see where the storm path is. We check for some load times. We can coordinate with the farmer whether we need to bump up or delay the load times as far as storm conditions. When we inspect the vehicles, we go through, check all tire pressures, make sure we don't have a low tire. Anything out of the ordinary, chassis-wise, engine-wise, we double check that before we take off. And trailers, we check the trailers out every week for anything inside the trailer especially that could protrude and injure a hog. Make sure the gates function properly and just to ease in the loading of the hogs. Other things on the pre-trip as far as documentation goes is we need to have a current logbook, abide by all the state laws, federal laws. Some of us have iPads and cell phones these days have came a long ways where we can use some of the communications lines to get out and check with other drivers that are out in the area to see what things are happening, whether it be road conditions, accidents, and anything out of the ordinary that might disrupt our travel to the site. When we do arrive at the farm, we've got different loading procedures for different styles of cuts out of the barn. We have a thing called a gate cut, and one of the first gate cuts usually means that they're only taking 5 head out of a pen just to lighten the load, and there's still going to be pigs left over in the barn after we leave. Biosecurity will be a big factor on one of those style of loadouts, and that will dictate the condition of my equipment and what uniform or equipment that I have to put on. Some of the other things we have to worry about when loading hogs, in the summertime we need to worry about the heat. Our trailers are set up with water misters, and we need to check them periodically to make sure they're functional. And in the wintertime, we have to worry about the cold and the wind, so we have winter panels that we can put in place to help direct the wind off of the hogs. With seasonal, we need to worry about bedding. Summertime, it's warm out, you don't have to put quite as much bedding down. Wintertime, when that floor gets cold, you need to put enough bedding down where the hogs won't get frostbite. Some of the considerations we need to make before leaving home with our trailer is making sure we have the right decking in place, and that's all on account of the size and weight of the animal, what type of animal we're going to be hauling. Before I leave home, I'll have my information, and that has my head count and weight of the animals I'll be loading, and that helps me determine how many head I'm going to put per compartment, where I'm going to put them in the trailer, and the square foot per animal I need. One of the most important things in my pre-trip that I need is flexibility in my plan for any problem or contingency that might arise. When I first arrive at the farm, the first thing I do is coordinate with the farmer, take down any special procedures that he likes at his particular site, get the head count, estimated head count of what I'm going to be loading, if there's any water hookups and where they're located. Clean, dirty line is the point where the farmer and I cannot cross in order to not exchange any unwanted viruses in the building. I also check with him on trash disposal areas for me to get rid of my unwanted trash. When I first arrive at the site, I will then dock my trailer either into the chute or the dock using ground guides and sometimes a spotter. After that, I don my special equipment for loading, whether it be coveralls and booties, what have you, and I grab my equipment for the loading process. After that, I enter the trailer and start preparing my trailer. After entering my trailer, in order to prep it for the loading process, I swing any necessary gates in order to help with the loading process. I check ventilation, and depending on the temperature, if I've got to open any roof vents or take any winter boards off to allow it in the airflow. After I've got my trailer prepped, I coordinate with the farmer again and see where he would like me for a loading position. Most of the time it's in the back of the trailer. They bring the hogs up to you. Once the loading process has begun, while I'm at my loading position, I take note of the head count that's coming through the door, so I know what head count are going to be placed into each individual pen. I also look for any injuries, any hogs that might seem stressed or fatigued. We try to hold those back, maybe put them on the back of the trailer or hold them back for the next load, let them have time to cool off. In the winter time, with the winter panels, when we arrive at the destination, sometimes we have to take off the panels because of the heat created, and there's not as much airflow through the trailer at the barn site. Even though it's 5 degrees outside, it still creates a lot of heat inside with all those hogs and steam. After loading though, we pull out of the way and we usually put the winter boards back on. In summertime loading conditions, we have to worry about the heat in the trailer, and we have misters on the trailer that spray water out onto the back of the hogs. During the loading process, if something's going slow in the barn where they're having a hard time getting the hogs out, we're able to spray some water on the hogs in order to keep them cool while we're loading. And then after that, once we get loaded, we can let that water run on the hogs for 5 to 10 minutes, and usually that's a good time for us and the farmer to get our paperwork done. While watering the hogs, we pay close attention to the amount of water we use. We don't want too much. We put enough just to wet their backs. That way when we do get moving, what water is on their backs will help cool them down and lower their respiration rate. And just kind of like kids, they when in a car ride, if they get moving down the road and they're comfortable, they tend to take a nap. After the loading process is done, when we're leaving the farm, we make sure to take it nice and slow, let the hogs kind of get a feel for the ride, any movement that they might go under, and we just take it nice and slow leaving the farm. Once upon leaving the farm, we try to plan a route that's most expedient. Shorter's not always the best. You got a lot of stopping and turning, and it takes a lot of time. Our goal is to try to keep the hogs on the truck as least amount of time as possible. We try to stay away from big cities with crowded, lots of people, and a lot of traffic lights where we're going to be stopping with not as much air movement as out on the open road. Here in Iowa, we've got a thing also called ragbri that can tend to be a hazard for us hauling hogs. There's tens of thousands of bikes out there, and on certain routes, if you get stuck behind them, you're going to be there for quite a while. Upon leaving the farm, we try to plan a route that's most expedient. The shortest distance isn't always the fastest en route to the destination. There can be certain hazards as traffic lights, a lot of stop signs and turning. While en route to our destination, we have a couple forms of communication that aids us in knowing what's going on out there as far as our route to the destination. We have a CB radio. We can talk to other drivers out there. They can give us a heads up what's going on ahead of us, so we can plan if we've got to take action. Also, we have cell phones that we can talk to other drivers that are in the area that we are heading to, and they can let us know what's going on. Also, FM radio, we can listen to that and get traffic reports. We also watch for normal congestion on the highways, whether it be brake lights, farm equipment out there. While en route to the destination, there's a couple things we observe with the hogs. Some of those are stress from being too hot. We look for noses popping out of the side of the trailer. We also, when we're making a turn, slowing down and making a turn, we can look and listen and hear if there's any squawking going on back there where a hog might be getting overheated. In the wintertime, we look for steam rolling out of the top of the trailer. You're going to have some just from the breathing of the animal, but if there's an excess amount coming out, then we need to take action. En route to our destination, some other things we consider are making planned stops, especially in the cool part of the day. If we're on a long trip, we try to plan on a cool part of the day to make our stops. Also, if we have to make an emergency stop, we try to park where there's open air, not in and amongst other trucks that could be blocking the air going through the trailer. There's times you might have to stop and a facility has a hose you could hook up your water kit to spray the hogs down. While en route, if we do encounter any delays, the first thing we do is get in touch with our dispatcher, and he or she can make the appropriate calls to let the destination know we are running behind and help us with any of our problems that we're having. If something should happen, like one of us get into an accident, we have a chain of action that ensures the safety of the public and of our animals. Once we arrive to the plant, we need to make sure we're close to our dock times or arrival times, just to help with avoiding any long or lengthy lines. Once we do get there, get checked in, the first thing we need to do is check the condition of our animals. For instance, in the summertime, if we need to squirt some water on them, we can do that. Wintertime, if we need to pull some boards off to let some heat escape. Once I check in with the plant, I continuously monitor the condition of the hogs while waiting to unload until I hand over the responsibility to the receiving destination. Once it's my turn to back in to unload, I back into the dock, put on my clothing and equipment, and I walk back and check in with the dock personnel. Go over any special guidelines or procedures that they might have, follow TQA guidelines and plant policies. Once I start unloading, I make sure I do it in a timely and efficient manner while observing the condition and the stress of the hogs, not to overly excite them. And I look for any injuries that that animal might have. Once I've got my trailer unloaded, I wash off my personal equipment, put that back in the truck, dispose of any clothing or articles that I need to get rid of, remove my truck from the dock, get my paperwork, and then depart.